So this was supposed to be a build where I remade a watch that I did last year, only upgraded it, made it better. I thought I'd throw in a more detailed chapter ring and some OEM hands that have better lume and just look nicer. And I thought the hook for this video would be, I'm going to grind down a turtle chapter ring and put it in an SKX 007 case, since they are literally a millimeter in diameter too big. And I did that and it worked, and so for the majority of the build process, that's what you're going to see in this build. But towards the end of the process, I did actually find an SKX 007 chapter ring that was actually an SKX 007 chapter ring in the same style, because the turtle one that I initially bought was listed as an SKX 007 chapter ring. That's why I bought it. So although this is not going to be about the grinding down of the chapter ring, I've left a bit of that process in. And we're just going to see what is a very cool build with a nice samurai dial, a detailed chapter ring, and I even try out something interesting with the second hand where I dip it in some red acrylic paint just to make it match the chapter ring. And last but not least, towards the end of this build process, I wasn't too keen on the OEM SKX 007 bezel, although it has beautiful bezel action. It's really nice and firm. I'm not a fan of the styling on it, so I contacted NamokiMods and asked them if they'd be willing to send me some parts just to spruce up the build, and I thought I've never tried knurled parts before, so we're going to put on some knurled parts, a knurled crown and a knurled bezel, and going to throw on an MM300 ceramic insert because those things are just perfect. So, let's get stuck into this one, shall we? Now, while I'm disassembling the spare parts for this build, I thought I would put up a list of all the parts that end up in the watch because I do swap them throughout the build process. So, we've got an aftermarket SKX 007 case from 1 Second Closer, we've got a generic Jubilee bracelet from eBay, we've got a knurled bezel, a knurled crown, and a Marine Master ceramic bezel insert, all from NamokiMods. They sent those in for this build, so thanks for that. We've also got a display caseback that I bought from SEIKOMODS last year. We've got a flat sapphire crystal with clear AR coating from SEIKOMODS. That's the CT025F version, which is edgeless. It goes right up to the bezel insert. Then we have a SEIKO OEM dial, the Black Samurai from the SRPB51. We've got OEM hands from the SNZF17. A detailed chapter ring from AliExpress with red hour markers on it. And of course, an NH35. Unfortunately, my camera had filled up the SD card just as I was recording popping out the crystal, so here's some different footage of me doing it just so you can see how I did it. This is where I discover that the chapter ring is not the right fit.
Look at that. That won't fit either.
At the time, I didn't actually know the diameter of SKX 007 chapter rings. I just sort of took listings at their word, so, you know, now I know. Right. Let's take this chapter ring with the red markers on it and try and sand the edges down by 1 whole millimeter. 0.5 millimeter diameter around the edge. You wouldn't think it would take that long, but it took 20 minutes when I did it on this one. And this one's made out of plastic, not metal. So that is essentially the correct diameter now for an SKX 007. I wasn't sure if it was necessary to sand the top down, but I wanted to make sure it didn't interfere with the crystal, just in case. And I'm just gently, again with the edge of my nail, just pressing it in because it is friction fit. That is in. That is a turtle chapter ring in an SKX 007 case. And I think that alignment of the marker's pretty good. So now I'm just going to clean this case with some Rodico just before I put all the parts in and press in the crystal. I'm so pleased with how well those markers have held up. Not a single one of them's chipped off or come off. Crystal gasket going in. Let's give it another little dab with the Rodico. Okay. Just using a bit of IPA to just clean the underside of the crystal and the sides of it. Place that down on it. That threaded on quite nicely. Here goes nothing. Then we lift it out. Do a 180. That does look fairly flat anyway, but we'll do it anyway. That's pretty good. That's pretty level. There we are. NH35. And this one has the TMI logo on it, opposed to the SEIKO Instruments logo. Although this is still a SEIKO. I did look it up. It's not like a copycat or anything. Although I'd only ever seen these recently, but TMI have been apparently making NH35s and 36s for years. So, going to be switching this black calendar disc for a white one. We're going to have the symmetry with the indexes, so I bought the one with a black disc on it so that I had a spare black day disc. But we're going to be putting one of these on it. We're going to take out these 4 screws here. Then we're going to take the top plate off of it. Come on. There we are. Now we can take this calendar disc off. So it's gonna... There we are. We're going to pull this pin back so that it locks into place. Has that just broken a piece off of it? There's no way. Looks like all the teeth are intact. What was that? Well, whatever it was. Oh, it's there. How bizarre. Oh well. Put the plate back on. There we are. Rodico, what would you do without it? Just tighten those down. Okay, let's check that it functions. Yeah, that's all of the days clicking over nicely. Changing of the day. Yeah, that functions just fine. Let's get the dial dots on it, ready to put on the Samurai dial. Let's cut up some more dial dots. This is just a bezel insert ring. Far too big. Those four are significantly smaller. They should not go over this ring. So let's try again. That one kind of folded in on itself. They're all doing it. Maybe I cut them too small. That's what massaging them with the tweezers is for though. Yeah, look at that. That's just rolled up into a little ball. All you can do there is just get rid of it and get another one. Wow, they're all just rolling into little... Oh, this is just tragic, isn't it? Get rid of these and do more. Do fresh ones. You cut them just a little bit too small. Somewhere in between. What is this? Goldilocks and the Three Bears? There we are. Hopefully that's the right size. Seems fine. You've got to be careful. Twice you've nicked the disc. There's one. Right, next one. The real question is, how many dial dots can you get away with? Can you get away with just 2? Let me know in the comments. How many? What's the minimum number of dial dots that you've used, if you've ever used them? See, again, that could be a bit smaller. That may, I mean, it helps it stay in position in the case, but this sort of, the edge of this will press up against the inside of the case and can potentially cause the dial to move when you remove the case. Remove the movement from the case. Put one up here. Get rid of this, and then we can massage it into place because it's moved. That's just awful, isn't it? Gosh, that could have gone better, but it's on. Do this last one. It's come unstuck from its backing. Of course it has. Where do we think? 1, 2, 3, 4, about here. That one's actually gone on quite nicely. Okay. So the dial dots are on. That one looks a bit... Well, hopefully it'll hold it down. It's only supposed to hold the dial down anyway. Alright. Let's get the dial, put it on. What are we looking for here? 30, I'm pretty sure, is what we're aligning with. As far as I can see, that looks great. The only thing to do next is to test fit it and see if it aligns with the chapter ring in the case. So that's completely wrong. That's not even close to right. We're not aligning it with the 30. We're aligning it with the next one down. Wah, wah, wah. There's your blunder. Okay. Gently pry it up. There. So, I did it on the 30. Got to do it on the 29. looks okay. Let's see if it fits in the case properly. See if it aligns. Okay. Test fit number 2. This time, I'm more hopeful. Well, that's not bad. Bit off, but we'll align the movement first. Make sure that it's correct. Oh, get all these bits off the glass. Look at that. Stubborn piece of filth. I hate it. I hate stuff on the glass. Needs to be turned this way just a little bit. So we need to go that way. It wasn't even in all the way. So we look at that. That's just ever so slightly off, and it needs to be rotated clockwise. Just a little bit. But it's almost there. And the way to do that is just hold it in your hand. And to just overdo it, and then when it snaps back, should be in place. So let's try again. Every time I put this down, there's something else on the glass. There we are, that's in. The top of it needs to be nudged over, so the dial is ever so slightly squiff to one side. I'm just gently moving the top. It doesn't even look like I'm doing anything, but we'll see. You can only keep nudging and testing at this point. Now it's perfect at the top, but the bottom is slightly off, look. Even though the top is good. I think it needs to be rotated and nudged to the side. Ah, that's right. Just drop the movement. Rotating and then pulling to the side. I think we've got it. I think that's perfect. That looks aligned. Yeah. That sits really nicely around the edge of it too. That looks terrific. Right. Let's get the hands on. We just gently nudge it. There we are. Could be nudged over just a little bit. There, yeah. Okay. How's that looking? Very gently tip it at the back like that. There. Not interfering with any of the indices. There. There, that's just to get the smudges off from the Rodico. It always annoys me that there's a tiny bit of play in the hour hand. Alright, next. I need you to get off the Rodico, thank you. Oh, you didn't. Come on, get off the Rodico. You can get off now. Ugh, I wish my hands wouldn't shake. Gently. Have I even pushed that on? Yeah, not enough at the back though. There, that's better. Yeah, much better. Give it a little dab here. Let's double check it. Oh, yeah, before we do. These hands are much nicer than the previous ones that I used in this same style. Lines up fairly good. Just checking the alignment. Absolutely perfect alignment. Yeah, just before 12, like 1 minute. That's fine. Alright, let's take this Rodico here. Just make sure there's no bits. Go like this. Now, we're going to do something special with the second hand. So let me show you what I'm going to do. There's another smudge on the glass. Don't you love it? There you go. That's gone now. And then there's more of those stubborn particles that won't come off. I hate you so much. So these little markers, they're a sort of crimson red. I think they're crimson red anyway. They're not a bright red. They're sort of a darkish red. And so I've got some acrylic crimson paint here. And what I'm hoping is that it matches, so that I can dip the tip of the second hand in it and just give it a little red tip. Not very much of it, a very small amount, just for a little pop of colour. So this is going to be really simple. I'm just going to grab this with the Rodico, just stick it onto the pin there, and we're just going to dip it in. So that's all we're going to do. Just a little red tip. We're just going to let that sit, let that dry, and then when it's done, we'll put it in the watch. We're going to take this large pusher here, but the flat end with the little hole in the middle, because that will press the second hand on a bit more level. It's had about maybe 10 minutes to dry. We're going to go for it. On. So now we're going to press it on. I wonder why that went on at such an angle. Oh well, there's an easy way to remedy that. Press it in underneath and then just go like that. There. Gosh, I wonder why that's angled upwards so much. It's the whole hand is it's working, at least. That little bit of red on the end is a really nice touch. There. So the actual alignment's fine, but you can see the second hand is sort of bent upwards. It still goes up, as you can see. But there's good spacing between all of those. I think that's fine. As long as it doesn't interfere with the glass, I think we're good. So, let's get this cased up and see if it's okay. Let's make sure there's no specks on the dial, which there is. Let's get the case. Want to make sure it's pressed in. Yeah, that's in. Is it interfering with the glass? No. Yeah, look at that. That colour matches fairly well. Wait a minute. Is the second hand stuck on the glass? Okay, let's get it out. We'll try and bend it downwards. Yeah, look, it's moving again. Oh, I actually just pushed the whole second hand further down. Is that on too far now? Am I going to have to remove the whole thing? Probably. Yeah, what a shame. Should be close enough. Guess we'll just have to remove them and try again. Yeah, sometimes that happens. At least you get to see me remove them. I can't see them. There we are. That came off nice and easily, actually. Okay. Let's see where it ticks over again. They're not interfering, so that's good. Who knows if that second hand will fall off though. I'll give the watch the shake test. we'll call that 1 minute before 12, maybe 2. Okay. All right. I may replace this crown with another one. It is a signed crown, but I'm not a fan of this texture. It's the only spare crown I've got. Looks like it's still functioning. There's no interference with the glass this time, so we'll put the case back on. Can you hear that rain hammering away at the window? That is a very rainy day. I believe when I filmed this part of the video, it was the 12th of March, and we had a lot of rain that week. Yeah. That looks really cool. Right, let's give it the shake test and see if that second hand is going to fall off. The second hand went on a bit too easy the second time, so I'm just giving it the shake test. No, still on there. So I'm going to change this bezel and the crown, so that's why I've skipped showing the installation for now. But here it is in its current state, and I'm not happy with this crystal. It's obfuscating the markers on the chapter ring, so we're going to swap it for an edgeless crystal, as you can see here. Much better. It's not obfuscating the markers at all. There's no sort of distortion, if you will. So here's a good look at the watch as it was at this time, with the spare parts, you know, the OEM SKX bezel and that gear-shaped crown, which I'm just not a fan of. I don't like the way it operates. And this ground-down turtle chapter ring. But then I was actually able to find an actual SKX 007 chapter ring with this exact same styling on it. So here it is. So I'll put it up here on the top-down shot, and we'll do a cut to show the difference. Now watch this. Immediately, not only does it look better, the color's a bit more vibrant, but the markers, they appear longer. The form factor is just much better. There are caveats to grinding down a chapter ring, and I think this one made for it definitely looks better. So yeah, it's a shame that my original hook for the video was completely null and void at this point, but who cares? This is still going to be a fantastic build, and now that I've done that, we're going to swap out this bezel and that crown for some parts that were sent to me by NamokiMods. So let's take a look at those. So we've got a lovely knurled bezel here. I've never actually had one of these before. That is beautiful. Look at that. Look at the texturing on that. I like the polish to the top side of it as well. That's going to look awesome. Got a new bezel ring for that. I'm not sure how new the one in the watch is, so I'm just going to throw this one in there. Why not? We're going to pop the bezel off and swap it anyway, so we'll use that. We've got a knurled crown here to match the knurled bezel. I think these are going to look really cool together, I really do. Again, never had one of these before, so I'm excited to see how it's going to look on this watch. And to go on that bezel, you can't go wrong with these MM300 ceramic inserts. They're so good. Like, the font just elevates it above a regular SKX insert, because the rest of the styling is the same. You know, you've got the lines and the dots, but then those numbers just, they look so good. Fantastic. So we're going to put that on there as well. Right. So there it is in its current state. So I'm going to swap this crown for the knurled one, the bezel for the knurled one, and the bezel insert for that gorgeous MM300 insert. So let's get to it, shall we? Right, let's pop this bezel off first. So we're just going to pop that in there. Nice and easy. So we're not going to use this. I might take this insert off here and, you know, salvage it for something else, or I might just leave it on this bezel, because you never know, I might use it in the future. There, that's better. We could just take that out. There we are. Yeah, do not copy how I'm measuring this here, because I get it wrong. I cut it too short.
Let's bring that down to 5 point.
So although I am shrinking my measurement to cut off less so that I have more to work with, since my initial measurement was wrong, this wasn't enough, but I do recommend deducting a bit from your measurement so you cut off a little less.
So we've got a line on it, well, we've got a mark on it so I can see it. I'm going to do just above that line. That bounced all over the desk.
Yeah, I also recommend cutting it into a bin or something. Don't copy this imbecile here.
As long as it didn't go in my drink. Yeah. Good. Okay. I've never been very good at sizing stems. I've got one crown that perfectly aligns the S to a horizontal plane when it's fully screwed in. One. All the others go at a slight angle, which is fine. The angle kind of looks cool, but you know, doesn't mean that it's the best workmanship. That seems fine. Crown should go on there. How are we looking? Oh dear, is that too much? I think what I might try and get away with, I've cut that too short. So what that means is when I try to wind it, it starts screwing in. So what I'm going to try and do is just loosen the crown just a little bit, and hopefully the two-part epoxy will hold it at its current position. Because I don't really want to cut another stem. I do have another stem, but gosh, maybe one day I'll get better at cutting stems. Oh well, there's no accounting for mediocre workmanship. Grab hold of this and just loosen it ever so slightly, because it still stays on pretty stiffly. Should be enough now. Let's see. Nope, that winds it just fine now. Yeah, gosh, it's just barely too small. That's fine, it winds the watch. Screws down. Again, we've got that nice sort of angle on there. I'll take that off. I'll screw that down as tight as it can go and then unscrew it just a couple of notches to match that. Oh my gosh, and that's just going to keep coming out. Yeah, I really need to get some Loctite. Don't I? Oh well, let's use the Q-tip here because we won't need that anymore. Use the clean side. Hold it nice and tightly, and then just dip it in. Place that on there. There we are, that's going on. So that's as tight as it will go. What is it? I'm going to leave it about there. Let's see, before the epoxy sets, let's get it back in the watch and see if it's still allowing me to wind it. Nope, that needs to be undone ever so slightly. That's fine. Again, the epoxy, once it sets, should hold it. There. So I've undone it barely anymore. Let's see. Yeah, that's winding, no problems. At least you've got that nice sort of tipped angle, like it's not tilted. You've got the tip of the S facing the horizontal plane. This line going this way, you've got the tip and the bottom of the S lining up to that, which looks cool, instead of it being a sort of offset. That's not terrible. So the crown's done. Yeah, that's the first time I've put in a crown slightly loose in terms of screwing it onto the stem, but like I said, hopefully that epoxy holds it in place. If it doesn't, something like Loctite will definitely hold it in position. Let me know in the comments, other watch modders and builders out there, have you done this before? Do you always tighten the crown as far down on the stem as it can go, where you cut it perfectly to size, or is there room for adjusting the torque of the crown on the stem to maybe change the alignment of the S, or just in general make the winding operation of the watch better? Let me know if you do this and if what your results have been, or if you don't do it, like if it's better to cut the stem flawlessly. There we are. That's the beauty of having the wide shot. When I filmed the beginning parts of this video, I did not have this extra webcam here that I'm using to film the top down. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. And so I didn't have a second camera to do the wide shot. But it's quite nice to have a second shot. Try not to blow the gasket out of there. Okay, let's pop this on the back. That'll do. That's how you've done it before. I don't know why you forgot that. That's in there. Yeah, even now it's sliding. Oh well, that's nice and tight. That's not going anywhere. Next, we can get this lovely knurled bezel on here. I do like a fresh gasket and a fresh click spring and all that stuff. It's always nice to have a new one. Hopefully the gasket in there is a chunky one, because I want a nice firm action on this. I'll utilise the wide shot for this. You can still see what I'm doing. On. Does it rotate? Oh, that. Let me just put that in focus. Oh my, NamokiMods. That might just be the best bezel I've got from you yet. That is a lovely smooth action. Some of the other bezels I've got, even with chunkier gaskets on, have been a bit lighter to the touch than this. This is really nice. Oh, that's nice. That's a nice bezel. Goodness me. Right, let's just get the new, what do we call it, the adhesive ring in there and the new insert. Then we're done. Come off there, don't you dare rip on me. We're going to have the whole middle, are we? There's no way you can separate that for me? Come on. Separate, there you are. There you are, it's alright. You've only bent it, which will potentially hinder it going in neatly. That one corner's decided to screw me, but the rest of that's gone on perfectly. Well, that explains why. Look at this. Oh, well, that's what. That's what nudging is for. Pressing down. Hopefully that doesn't affect the height of the bezel in this particular spot. That was disappointing. It was coming away from the backing when I got it off the thing here. Let's make sure this is in a good spot. Okay, that is on. Give it a wipe. You've dirtied it up. Loving the texture on this knurled bezel and knurled crown, and obviously that bezel insert. It's beautiful. If you want to do a really nice SKX mod and you like the style of the original SKX insert, obviously this is a loomed ceramic version, but it's the same font. You can't go wrong with this. Yes, it's only loom at the pip instead of the whole thing, but that font is so worth it. It looks so cool. I mean, if you're into this styling, fine, I suppose, but this just looks better. It just looks better. That is so nice. You're joking me. You see that speck on the dial? There's a speck on the dial. How did that get in there? I guess I've got to take the movement out now and give that a spray. But once I've done that and I've cleaned all this up, we'll get a better look at it.
So there is the finished result of all this tooling around with spare parts and, you know, making mistakes and, you know, let's be fair, I'm no expert at this. I make these videos sort of just to document my learning, if you even call it that. Considering I keep making the same mistakes, I still don't seem to be able to cut a stem to the perfect length. Even after gluing the stem to the crown and unscrewing it a little bit, a couple of days later when I went to wind the watch, it was still trying to screw in after a certain amount of time, and so it still winds the watch. I just have to, you know, go back and forth winding it instead of doing a constant rotating in one direction. But, you know, it's not the end of the world. I do wish that I could just cut stems to the right size. That would be great, wouldn't it? But still, I think generally this has turned out to be a pretty gorgeous looking build. It's got an OEM look to it, you know. I mean, yes, it's using a Samurai dial and it's using a detailed chapter ring, which I'm pretty sure the Samurais have, don't they? So that sort of, they go together. The hands definitely go with this dial, and they're OEM, just like the dial, so the loom is a perfect match. I just like the chunky look of them, and they definitely suit this dial, especially with how large and chunky the indices are. Again, I cannot speak highly enough of these MM300 bezel inserts. They're just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, first of all, a ceramic insert, you can't go wrong with that, just because of the way they catch the light. They look fantastic. But it's the font. I say this every time. The font on these bezel inserts just looks fantastic. It just looks so smart, and I like it very much. Never had knurled parts on any build before this one, and I like them a lot. These look really nice. I'm loving the detail of the knurled texturing around the edges of the crown and the bezel, and I love the polished top ring when you're looking at it top down. It looks absolutely stunning. Yeah, there's not really much more to say about this, really. I mean, the build process itself was a bit of a palaver when you think about it. You know, I must have switched the crystal on this thing like 4 times, which I hate changing the crystal, so that was annoying. But when you put on a crystal and then it obfuscates the chapter ring, you put on another crystal, it still obfuscates the chapter ring, so then you fork out for a more expensive crystal that doesn't obfuscate the chapter ring, and then after all that you think, yeah, I think I'll just get a better chapter ring. And it probably wouldn't have mattered then. But, you know, I digress. I think overall this build has turned out absolutely fantastic. It's got a real cool OEM look to it, and I'm definitely going to enjoy this one for a long time to come. Maybe in the future I might get a new stem and resize it if the winding operation bothers me to no end, but in the meantime I don't mind winding it the way that I pointed out earlier. The back and forth motion, it's definitely a small price to pay for my incompetence when cutting the stem. But anyway, let me know what you think of this build in the comments below, and let me know, I've heard people's thoughts on this before, but I'm always intrigued to get an update on these kinds of things. Are you a fan of the longer cut videos where you see more of the process and you see more of the mistakes? Because, you know, I'm pretty sure I've not built a watch yet where I haven't either made a mistake or something's gone wrong pretty much in every build. So yeah, let me know. And in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.